Hi, everybody. I'm PJ Kwong for SGS Live. And in today's session, we're going to be talking about managing supply chain conundrums, and specifically how shortages may have you looking to consider outsourcing your sample management or doubling down on your resources. Let's face it, we're not just talking about the delays in people receiving their stuff, but rather the journey that businesses take all the way along, including what happens with labor shortages. To help us frame up this important topic, I'm joined today by Karen Lord, Operations Manager, Business Development for Sample Management Services. Karen, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, PJ. Thanks for having me.
Okay, before we get started, I think it's only fair that you share with people what exactly is your role. Can you tell me about it?
Sure, PJ. My job is a perfect blend between operations and sales. It's all about that conversation. We are constantly talking to clients. We're trying to understand what their goals are, what their hurdles are, any long term, short term growth that they're wanting to do. And we keep that conversation going while we offer the solutions that we have.
All right, I've got to ask you kind of a tricky question because let's face it, this has been a very, very complicated couple of years. I want to know about a term that sort of has been in use since the turn of the century, and that is just in time inventory. It's one of the favorites in the inventory management sort of chain. So tell me about it and tell me more specifically why it isn't working right now.
Sure, PJ. If you can imagine, you go to the grocery store, you pull a milk carton off the shelf, and you can kind of peer behind and you see somebody restocking it. That is just in time inventory. The retailers don't lose a sale because there's always something there for you to grab, but they're constantly replacing behind just in time. And that's where you get that phrase. And the reason why this has been so popular is because it allows for retailers not to have all of the extra costs. You don't have the extra waste of products going bad. Rather, if that's a chemical that has overstepped its shelf life, or it could be produce. So, the reason why that's not working right now is we can't get a good estimate of how long things are going to take to get from point A to point B. There's many hurdles from before it even leaves. Do you have the right containers? Does the item get out in a timely manner? Are you fully staffed with the headcount that you need? All the way to once it's on that airplane or that truck or that vessel, is it getting to where it needs to go in a timely manner? So, because we can't make those estimations, customers are having to rework that and not do a just in time inventory.
So it's interesting that you would bring up a retail example like milk because we can all relate to that. And I'm sure lots of people are out there with businesses who can also relate to that. So we're kind of interested in what business you're in. So feel free to post it in our chat. But in the meantime, let's talk a little bit about what businesses, retailers in particular, what they're doing in Q4 of 2021 and how that might predict their success for their business in 2022.
Great question, PJ. So, of course, it depends on the industry. I would be really curious to know, again, drop in the chat box what industry you're in. But let's use agriculture, for instance. The agriculture industry has different growth seasons. So, the first season comes very early in the year. So, a lot of our clients that are in this agriculture industry are producing or manufacturing their items right at the beginning of the year. They send it to us and we repackage it in manageable containers and distribute it worldwide before the growing season. Imagine if a farmer in a very remote area gets sent a 55-gallon drum. They can't handle that and it's overboard for what they need. So the clients come to us, we repackage it and we distribute it in a timely manner, because if those products aren't in the ground in a field doing what they need to do, specifically for an R&D, then it could miss a whole growing cycle, which means that much longer to get on the shelves for sale.
You know, it's very important when we think about different life cycles and different businesses. That's what's so fascinating about this topic. And you know what? I am sure that by the comments that we're seeing, that we have attracted a global audience. So wherever you're from in our audience, we are delighted to have you and welcome from both Karen and myself.
Yeah.
Karen, I want to talk to you a little bit about what solutions are out there to increase your stored packaging inventory. Like I'm talking about, spun aluminum. I'm talking about glass containers, cardboard containers, micromanaging shipments without adding additional labor. Can you speak to that?
Sure. How do you add more headcount? How do you add more of a footprint without actually adding those things? The most reasonable thing is to outsource because not all companies can do that. So SGS's warehouses they're unique. It's not just a metal frame shell that we, store things in. We have invested in drum containers. Um, it's a like in our hub in the US, it's a wall of drums. Each has its own little cubby. We have blanketing available for products that are sensitive to air and to oxygen. And then we also have cool storage. And funny enough, actually, our hub here in the US has a state-of-the-art fire suppression system. And when we installed it, the fire department actually came out to have a look because in their words, it was totally awesome.
You know what's so interesting? I mean, it's not just about opening the closet door and throwing stuff in, which is kind of what I do. It's about really managing the supply chain conundrums as we're talking about. And if you're just joining us, I am speaking with expert Karen Lord about this very issue. And if you have any questions or any comments, feel free to drop them in the chat. We're going to have a Q&A at the end of this interview segment. And Karen is the operations manager, business development for Sample Management Services. And you know what? She knows what she's talking about. So I want to say that it's important to note that supply chains are not only affected on the outbound side, but also with packaging materials that our customers need. So just like our customers, container companies are experiencing low inventory and other kinds of issues. So if those containers are in low inventory or on back order or don't exist right now, what should our customers do?
That's a really great question, PJ. And I like that you pointed out that it's not just the outbound. Everybody focuses on shipment delays once that box or package or pallet leaves the warehouse. But what's very important is, are you able to even package it in the first place? So, we receive a lot of bulk and we put it into more manageable containers. And so that kind of also leads into the just-in-time inventory. Do we have those containers on the shelf ready to go when a customer puts in, hey, I need a sample shipped to this country? If we don't have the containers in stock, then obviously that sample isn't getting out. So we work with our clients and we make sure that we have a good idea of how many shipments they will make in X amount of time. And then we make sure to have the stock and inventory. And we do all of that in the background. The clients don't have to worry about this. Of course, it's always an ongoing conversation, but SGS handles that bulk stock, that backlog of stock that we handle for them.
Well, it is a very complicated process that you are making much more simple by talking to you. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't point to that QR code, wherever that is my finger should go, that people can point to. And that will take you to a landing page and more information. And if you want to get in touch with Karen or anybody else on our team, that is the way to do it. In the meantime, we're thinking about the front end of our supply chain, but I want to jump to the outbound side. There are clearly shipping issues happening at the moment, but we're not going to talk about the rates. I just refuse. But what I am going to talk about is the amount of time required in shipping. What's that all about?
Well, it's not always as simple as getting a box, whatever you're shipping, put it in the box and shipping it out. You can't just forget about it. What are the questions that you should be asking? Is it regulated? Are you legally required to ship this? Do you have the right container to ship this? Does it need a special permit? These are all questions that you should be considering to mitigate extra time that your package can take. There are the controllable time hurdles, and then there are those that we cannot control. We cannot control how long it takes for something to go through customs. Seasonal surges in packages obviously create delays. But if you have a certified shipper, somebody who's very knowledgeable, ships things all over the world every day, then they can make sure that paperwork is correct the first time. Is the verbiage correct? The volume? Did you put extra tape because it's going international? Did you lay a label with a sticker? These little things you may not realize, but they cause delays that can be avoided. And right now, with our current climate, anything that we can avoid, we should definitely do.
Karen, I don't know if you saw it, but Imran Nabi just gave you a 5-star review to you and your team. And this is what we're talking about, is the fact that you are a problem solver. Speaking of problems, this is the holiday season. And how do you make sure that your items are not stuck in customs? You know, it's Christmas time, it's Boxing Day, it's Chinese New Year. So your shipments need to be properly managed. But what else should customers be thinking about at this time?
Well, as I keep saying, it's truly a conversation. It's open. We work with our clients, we develop the solutions, and especially this time of year, we always see an uptick in clients, new and existing, coming to us because if they do have an on site shipper, then maybe the shipper is on vacation or out of the office, or maybe they're trying to get that last project out for the year and they didn't have extra headcount. So this time of year, we always kind of check in with our clients. Actually, we would have checked in over a month ago to make sure we have those containers on hand, make sure our holiday schedule, we're properly staffed to manage anything the clients may need. You know, that's just about the conversation itself, because if something is stuck in customs, it's not getting anywhere. It's incurring fees actually in storage. So it's all about kind of pre-planning. And right now you kind of have to plan for the worst.
Well, here's another sort of consideration. It's important for businesses to know thyself. So if businesses are looking at their core responsibilities as containerizing, packaging, managing the shipment of a sample of their product to a new customer, or they be thinking about themselves as selling a product to a new customer? Why is being able to answer this specific question important for a business?
Well, PJ, I'm going to give you a scenario to better
Okay.
answer this. So you are all dressed up. In about an hour, you're going to go meet a client, you're preparing, and another one of your clients sends you an email. Hey, I'm really interested in this product. Can you send me a sample? Do you think it'll be here tomorrow or the next day? So you're doing some quick calculations. Do I have the right containers? Did I actually order those boxes I was supposed to? Okay, I have all my supplies. I go out, I have this 55-gallon drum that I'm kind of wiggling around and trying to load, fill up this 1-gallon container. Checking the time, checking the time. You load the the 1 gallon, maybe it gets out, maybe it doesn't. Is it going to get to the client in time while you're racing safely to your next meeting? And, that's just the perfect scenario. A lot of our clients, when they come to us, they're a salesperson or a lab manager or an admin to an office, and they have other responsibilities as well. So sometimes that sample doesn't get out in a timely manner. And, our rule of thumb is if it comes in about noon to 1 p.m., the local time, wherever the SGS offices, we try to get the sample out the same day, which in turn means if it's not going international, it can be with your client the next day. So that's the perfect scenario. What is your focus? What is your core responsibility? Is it talking, developing business, or is it, finagling with a 55-gallon drum?
Who wouldn't like to see me try and work with a 55-gallon drum? I mean, really. And in truth, that whole sales aspect, if you don't generate sales, then you can't generate revenue, which is, part of what's happening. So I'm guessing that from our conversation, there is a lot to consider. So let's talk options a little bit. One option is to double down on resources, larger warehouse, and more people. What does that look like? And is that option a good idea?
Well, depending on the company, the industry, of course, they will have to evaluate for themselves. But if a company does decide that they want to keep their storage and their shipping in-house, then they may need to increase their storage footprint. So do they lease a warehouse for a year? Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? I don't think any of us know when things are going to be a little bit more regular. SGS, it's also a good thing to point out, SGS has different variations of our services. If you have the warehouse, it's existing, but maybe adding headcount just isn't in your future right now, then SGS has certified shippers that can be sent and they will work on site at your warehouse, doing all of your shipping. Or perhaps you don't have the warehouse or the headcount. Then SGS, we will manage all of the shipping to our location. So you don't even have to ship it to us. We'll do that also. And then we'll handle the rest for you.
It's about dealing with people who are experts in what they do. That's basically the short story in all of this. Don't forget that we've got a QR code here, bottom right of the screen. If you want more information, just scan that QR code and it will take you right to where you need to be. Karen, specifically, can you share how SGS Sample Management Services can work with the client to help determine the sizes they want and need for their samples to be shipped in?
Absolutely. So the key thing when we're starting any conversation with a client is please send us your SDS, your safety data sheet, and all products have it. The household products you have under your sink, PJ, they have safety data sheets, or the personal care items that you use. So it's very important to look at that document. It'll tell us if something is regulated via air, via ground, or via ocean. It'll also list in there the volume, which is regulated. Sometimes when products are in small volumes or small sizes and weight, they don't require to be shipped as a regulated product. So, of course, if it's not regulated, then that can be a financial savings. And then also we look at the regulations. We go to that book anytime that we need to, daily even. And we look at that, and sometimes you can ship the same amount of product in one box, but maybe it's in 2 containers. So that's something that we go to our customer. What is the most manageable size? Does it need to be in this volume? Can we do this? Just to offer those additional solutions to them. And then you also have to watch. Sometimes it has to be shipped in an HDPE plastic container because of the regulations, or sometimes it has to be shipped in a metal can. So these are things that SGS will look at for you. And then we work with you, have that conversation. Again, I'll keep coming back to that. And we find the solution. And that's how we determine what size and kind of container is suitable for your shipments.
What I love when you mention conversation, what I love about that is the fact that it is in fact a dialogue that goes back and forth, and that you're not just sort of spouting information at customers, you're listening to what they're saying and what their needs are. I think that that's absolutely fantastic. As I mentioned earlier on, we're going to have a little Q&A, and we've had some questions that have come in earlier. If anybody wants to leave a question, they can do so in the chat. So let's start right now with our very first question.
Okay.
which is, how does SGS's warehouse space help the customers?
Well, that's a good question. So, as I touched on earlier, our warehouse is a little bit more specific than just kind of an empty shell. We have gone through and tried to make it very efficient so we can get samples out that same day or the next day. So, throughout the warehouse, we have they're called quick connects, and they're on a hose and we pull them. We can purge containers for sensitive products. We can store them in a cool storage area. Of course, SGS, we have our labs also, always a very close proximity. So if you need additional sampling or anything like that, so there's a lot of services and a lot of positives with letting SGS store your products.
I have another question. Big surprise, right? Um, do you have, or does SGS have an EPA establishment number? And for those people who don't know, what is that?
I'm so glad somebody asked. Yes, we actually do have our EPA establishment number. It was very important for us to get this because we wanted to be able to better help our customers in the agricultural industry. And so, what this is basically is in order to have in order to repackage and relabel EPA regulated products, you have to have the certification. What does this look like? A customer with an EPA regulated product sends us a drum or an IBC tote or maybe a 10-gallon container. And they would like different sizes, smaller. Of course, the farmer in the remote area doesn't, want to handle these big sizes. And also, it's inefficient. It's very costly to ship something very large if you really need something small. So we pour it into these smaller containers and we relabel it. Those two things seem very simple, but you actually need the EPA certification to do that. And then, of course, we distribute it worldwide.
All right, final question. Are you ready for it?
I think so, PJ.
Can you please give me a bit of a rundown about SGS Services and how they can help our customers?
Sure. Well, I think it's important to note that we deal with very large companies, also smaller companies, even mom and pops, if you want to call it that. We also work with the agricultural, the cosmetics, personal care, oil and gas, you name it. We work with clients across the board and all over the world. We have locations all over the world that can handle the sample management services. And we really rely on our network to get things across the globe. So, in a nutshell, send us your bulk materials or we'll ship it to ourselves. We'll put it in more manageable sizes and we'll ship it out on demand with just a simple click of a button, and you order it for your clients. And we can get it kind of all around the world. So I think that's it in a nutshell, PJ.
So, the fact that you're making supply chain conundrums no more, I'm going to ask an additional question, which I wasn't going to, but here we are. And it's a question from
Okay.
Imran. Just give us one quick sec. Can you touch on remote shipping and advise how clients can ship hazmat samples if they do not have a hazmat certified shipper in house?
Oh, wow. Well, this is great. And this is a service that I'm always very excited to offer. Of course, we have offices all over the world. So if we can work with a local office, even if they don't directly handle sample management, then we definitely utilize our colleagues to help us. But let's say you're in a very remote area, or it's just very inefficient for somebody to travel, 8 hours one way or something like that. So, what we do is we utilize technology and we get on a video call with the client and we to better understand what the product is, the look at the container, if it's already in a container, And then we understand what they need, and we will send them a shipping kit. So if the product needs a UN approved package for a regulated product, we will send the box itself. If it needs a container, we will make sure to send the appropriate and the most efficient sized container. We will even send them the tape, and we ship it to them with some instructions, with pictures, how to package it. Then again, we get on a video call and we watch them package it. We tell them what to do. And then we send them the shipping label and all of the appropriate paperwork. And then they're able to ship it to us. Especially, I'm just going to go back to the agricultural industry, and also in the oil and gas. Sometimes these upstream locations, they're in very remote areas, but they still need their samples tested. Our labs, we help ship samples to our labs. So they may need to be tested, or they may need to be further distributed across the world. So this is a really great service, and it helps support some of our other groups as well. And it just works.
It does work. And you know what else works? All of the information that has been provided to our audience today. Karen Lord, Operations Manager, Business Development, Sample Management Services. You have been a treat at solving all of our problems. Thank you for the great solutions.
Thanks so much,
Wonderful.
PJ.
Listen, if you want more information on everything to do with sample management conundrums, just point yourself to that QR code, and that'll take you to where you need to go in order to be able to get in touch with us here at SGS. This has been terrific information. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm PJ Kwong for SGS Live. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.